RTD puts its struggle bus in reverse, looking to undo damage done by its rejection of the National Medal of Honor Museum's plans. That tickle you feel is the government reaching into your pocket for road money this year, sometimes twice. Since when can you get a speeding ticket from somebody other than the police? How is this even legal? Our brains were built to love marijuana. Turns out your kid was right after all. And a next viewer says it's high time to consider how Colorado's 14ers could be impacted by rising sea levels. No, seriously. This is fascinating. And it's next. Beep, beep, beep. That would be RTD backing up, preparing to reverse its decision on the National Medal of Honor Museum. Tonight, RTD's elected directors are getting a redo after they rejected a request to give a vacant lot to that possible museum project downtown. From the conversations I've had with directors, I expect that they are going to approve the museum's request tonight. Director Kate Williams still will not talk to us after she said this.
I'm inclined to be less than impressed with the National Medal of Honor Museum. I don't know how many National Medal of Honor winners there are that they need a museum for that.
Director Williams is still refusing to answer our question. She is an elected official. She answers to the public, a public that, let's be honest, probably had no idea that she represented them until she publicly questioned the need for a Medal of Honor museum. Director Williams did send us a rambling 762-word statement that said a whole lot of things, but did not apologize for that statement. RTD leaders have received an earful from the public since that vote, including just minutes ago during public comment from a citizen named Michael B. Hancock.
Most museums incorporate green space, landscaping, and open space into their design. And we think that this museum, for example, the mall in Washington is an example, and even the Denver Art Museum are examples of opportunities. The National Medal of Honor Museum wants to do the same. The size of the building lot will not support this, and that is why the RTD lot, the south lot, is so critical and will serve that function. So without the ability to sublease the slot, Denver's proposal would not be competitive as Arlington.
Bad lot you got there, RTD. Shame if something nice happened to it. One final thought ahead of tonight's expected reversal from RTD on this Medal of Honor Museum. There is a chance that museum planners just say good riddance to Denver and go to Arlington, Texas, where they have not received a public rejection. Now, if that happens, it'll be easy to blame Director Williams for her comment or the other directors who voted no. But two directors tell me that this rejection only played out in public because RTD staff put the proposal in front of the board to rubber stamp it without checking first to see if it had the director's support. Many of Colorado's roads these days come with a complimentary massage with each bump and pothole and crack and crevice. Maybe you like the massage. You'll be asked to pay more to fix those roads this fall. Depending on where you live, you might get asked twice. Politics guy Marshall Zellinger explains why.
Orange, you glad there isn't a lot of road construction? Orange, you getting to where you need to on time? Orange, yeah, there's a lot of orange out there. And when you open your election ballots, some of you will be asked to take out your green for more orange, twice.
There's a $9 billion funding shortfall when it comes to the state's infrastructure challenges.
Consider that part of what Proposition CC addresses, CDOT highways. But local road projects, the ones you complain about between your home and the highway, that's what voters in Longmont, Meade, Colorado Springs, and Alamosa will also decide on their ballots.
Trips begin and end on a local road.
The Colorado Municipal League tracks the issues on local election ballots.
What we found was a $3.5 billion funding shortfall for our municipal roads, and then an additional $750 million funding shortfall just for our maintenance needs.
In the town of Meade, voters are being asked for a 1% increase in sales and use tax, just for transportation. The town believes it will bring in $1 million a year for these projects on trails, roads, and drainage. Last year, the same voters were asked for the same tax increase, but for police and roads. It lost by 49 votes. Nearby in Longmont, voters there are being asked to extend a tax they already pay. The 0.75% sales and use tax is supposed to expire in 2026. Longmont voters are being asked to continue this road tax forever. In Colorado Springs, voters are also being asked to extend a road tax that goes away next year. And Alamosa voters are being asked for a 0.5% sales and use tax to fix the roads highlighted in this map that the city has provided for transparency. In talking with the Colorado Municipal League, I found one reason we could go back to, depending on where you stand on this issue, is that the gas tax hasn't changed. Since 1991, it's 22 cents per gallon. And if we're going to blame John Elway for some of the Broncos' problems, we can go to 1991, the last time the gas tax was changed, when John Elway was quarterback. So I can figure out a way to try to blame John Elway for this too, Kyle.
I'm just glad you didn't try to make another one of those orange references. All right. Thank you, Marshall. So Democrats started their official impeachment inquiry into President Trump's conduct today. All of Colorado's Democrats in Congress are on board with this, with differing levels of enthusiasm about the approach. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi held off the left wing of her party as long as she could on this. She announced today that impeachment is going to look at issues including President Trump's admission that he asked Ukraine's president for help investigating Joe Biden. Colorado's Democratic representatives Diana DeGette, Jonah Goose, and Jason Crow were most eager for impeachment proceedings. Ed Perlmutter asked for an impeachment inquiry, slight distinction there. Senator Michael Bennet previously opposed impeachment as he ran for president himself, but that's not what he was saying today.
There's the reason why we gave the legislative branch the kind of oversight that we're giving them. And by the way, the only remedy for a president who does something like this, and you should be exercising that remedy in a judicious and thoughtful way. And that is what I think we should do.
Trump administration, of course, says that impeachment is a witch hunt. The White House did say this afternoon that it will release a transcript of the phone call with that Ukrainian president. Police are pulling people over for speeding all the time. Have you ever been pulled over by a security guard? Can they even do that? A picture of a speeding ticket issued by a ranch near Greeley is raising all kinds of questions today. Can a landowner pull somebody over on their land like a cop could? Jeremy Hole is along after spending part of his day looking at this strange ticket. And oh, you got theme music too. I've been asking for entrance music for 3 years and I couldn't get it. So this ticket, it looks like a speeding ticket that you would get from a police department, but it's not.
But it's not. And actually, if you take a closer look at it, it looks like a detention slip I once got in middle school, but we'll get more into that. It was posted online on the highly popular website Reddit, the Denver subreddit, and you can take a closer look at the ticket here. It shows the driver was ticketed about $100 for going 30 miles per hour in a 25 mile per hour zone. The citation notes if they don't pay the ticket, they will lose the right to have access to the 70 ranch. This whole thing was signed by a security officer who used a pencil. So the ranch, Kyle, is up north. It's east of Greeley. It's in Weld County. It's a big place, 20 square miles. So I called the district attorney there who said he has never seen this type of ticket before. He said his office would definitely not enforce this ticket, and he speculates the ranch may actually have some sort of like agreement with drivers who enter the property. If drivers use the land, maybe they may agree to be ticketed. The Attorney General's office said that they could actually not weigh in on this issue because they don't know the nature of this stop. They raised the question, is the security officer purporting to be a cop?
Yeah, lights and sirens and
so,
stuff,
yeah, so lights and sirens, how is this happening? But we don't know because the ranch has actually gone silent on us. I think because this got a lot of attention and I started chewing on it early this morning. They kind of backed off and stopped responding to my phone calls and emails. So.
The stop is what fascinates me, almost more than the ticket. This idea of like, who's behind you? Do you have to stop? Do you believe that person is law enforcement? And then at the end, they write you this slip of paper, which apparently you could just ignore.
Apparently, I mean, they may try to take you to collections, but it's clear there's no state law here that's written on the citation. This is not a state-sanctioned ticket. This is possibly a civil matter where they could try to sue someone over $100 in small claims court or through a collections agency, but it's really something that's
wild. That's interesting.
Yeah.
All right, keep us updated, please.
Sure.
Living with a spinal cord injury was not the life that an elementary school principal expected.
Being 2.5 years out, I'm still growing into this new life.
And all of its ups and downs as we continue to share her unexpected journey. I feel like Colorado had already legalized marijuana before our public debate turned to the issue of high potency cannabis. People saying like, this isn't your parents' marijuana, be careful now. So the real scientific research into that continues. But scientists do know that our brains are built for THC, custom made to accept a high. Here's Anusha Roy.
The good news at Denver Health is fewer people are showing up at their ER really high.
Still see people with bad reactions to marijuana on a weekly basis. It used to be daily.
But Dr. Eric Lavanas, who has seen the worst,
Children who got into edibles and who spent a day or two in the ICU.
He shares a concern over higher potency marijuana, along with Elizabeth Stout, a psychiatrist in Pueblo.
I'm seeing people that are full-blooded relatives. You know, they're both using high potency products, and one develops psychosis and one doesn't.
What we actually know about marijuana and the brain is pretty limited.
We really never knew why people liked marijuana until the 60s, when a lab in Israel discovered THC.
So the brain is built-in receptors for THC.
And they named it a cannabis receptor.
And like any receptor in the brain, too much is too much. And the same can be said for nicotine or caffeine.
And we don't know exactly what it is doing, because it sits in there for a very long time.
Now people are navigating dueling studies, like one from the UK warning higher potency marijuana can be linked to psychosis in some cases, while another local study from CSU said they didn't find strong evidence it leads to more health problems.
So until we can actually break this plant down and start to study it, we don't know what every cannabinoid does.
Based off the relief, Wanda James, the founder of Simply Pure Dispensary, says she's seen with customers.
They may have just had broken bones. They may have just had surgery.
She said more research is a must, and so is perspective.
The last 200 years in this country, we have learned to drink alcohol. So people understand that a shot and a glass of beer are not going to give them the same effect. We're in the process now of learning this about cannabis.
So Colorado law doesn't actually cap potency for retail marijuana, that is except for edibles. The State Department did tell us that it is warning people about higher concentrations of THC. But Kyle, they also said that there is little to no evidence about specific health effects of marijuana potency. So you can take that for whatever perspective you like.
All right, so I'm a scientist, I'm a researcher. I want to look into this question, get us better information for better public policy, and then I hit a brick wall.
Yeah, because when we talked to CSU, they said they're still trying to get federal dollars to help them out because you need a lot of money to be able to study this properly. So you can imagine the bureaucracy, the red tape, and how long it takes to get that, and then the restrictions that the feds put on you when you're trying to study it.
Still a controlled substance at the federal level. All right, thank you, Anusha.
In colorful Colorado, it has begun. It is glorious up in the Colorado high country. And with wonderful weather for much of this first week of fall, you get a chance to get up there and enjoy the Colorado outdoors and bring back those pictures. Low pressure to our south, bringing in a few clouds. High pressure to the north. That's where the cold air is, and it stays north for now. As a matter of fact, the temperature trend will be above average for most of this week. 85 today. The average is 75, and pretty close to that record of 89. All of that moisture to the south stays put with high pressure anchored where it is. So that means we've got a good looking forecast for tonight. Fair skies and 51. Sunshine tomorrow and a high of 79. A weak dry front rolls through, knocking numbers down a few degrees, only to see them soar again Thursday. Chance for showers and cooler weather on Friday, maybe a little snow in the high country way up high. And the wonderful weather for the upcoming weekend with low 80s forecast for Saturday and Sunday, and more wet weather coming in Tuesday and Wednesday of next week.
Okay, thanks. Our next question comes from a viewer named Chris Pitcher. Chris writes, with the rising sea level due to glacial ice melt, will Denver actually not be 1 mile above sea level in the near future? Will our 14ers turn into 13ers? Chris, that is a great question, with the obvious note that the last thing that anybody should truly be worried about when it comes to climate change and seas rising is whether our Colorado 14er t-shirts need revision. But it's a good question, so let's dive in. Sea level is being constantly measured and readjusted. But Denver, the mile-high city, is 5280 above sea level because we say so. Denver can pick any spot within city limits to measure elevation. So if sea level rises by some scientists' expected 2 to 3 feet predictions by the year 2100, in addition to there being devastating coastal inundation, Denver might have to move its marker on the state capitol up a few steps. And climate change could also steal our sunshine. Sunshine peak, 14,001 feet. adjusted sea level could wipe it off the list of 14ers by the end of the century. Projected ice melt over the next 80 years could knock off Huron Peak and Mount of the Holy Cross. But we honestly might not notice our climes getting any shorter, because at that point, future generations will be dealing with a full-blown climate crisis. Her life changed in an instant.
Once you're injured, all you want to do is get anything back you can.
An elementary school principal is finding a new way to do life, and she wants to share that message with others. Next. Allison Mallory is an educator, so she knows a lot of things about a lot of things. But 2.5 years ago, she would not have been able to tell you that September is Spinal Cord Injury Awareness Month. If you've followed her journey along with us since then, you know that is one of the many new facts of life for Allison Mallory since her snowboarding accident. And she's using this month and the attention that it brings to injuries like her own to share an update on her story with our photojournalist Chris Hansen.
Before my accident, I was an athlete. I was confident, I was ambitious, and being 2.5 years out, I'm still growing into this new life. I had a set of identifiers and, characteristics that that made me me. So it's about a little bit past my belly button, all the way down is where I'm paralyzed. Right after my accident, I couldn't identify myself as an athlete. I felt lost. I'm lucky that I have a career as a principal that gives me a lot of purpose. What was harder was my personal identity and thinking about everything that I could do before, that I couldn't do currently. And so I think I threw myself into my work and really neglected who I was as a person before. Trying to get back to who you were before such a traumatic and life-changing event is an incredibly long and hard process. And I remember being in a pretty deep discussion with a close friend of mine. She said something that was very poignant, and that was that I don't value myself as much as I did before. At the end of last year, I had decided that this last summer was going to be a summer of yes, that I would put myself out there, I would take a risk. And I remember calling my mom this summer and telling her this was the first time I felt completely like myself since my accident. And that took about 2.5 years. Today I identify as an athlete, a differently abled athlete, but an athlete. When you go through something that's so life-changing, you understand somebody else's point of view in a way that you never could. I'm confident, I'm optimistic, but I also think that we don't go out of our way to learn something about people who are not like ourselves. And I think that when we do that and we look at differences and what makes us unique, we all can grow.
We will continue to follow Allison Mallory's story so long as she's willing to share it. Some of you think that we are getting this story about RTD in the Medal of Honor Museum all wrong. Your feedback is next. Chris Jackson writes in with a contrarian view on RTD in the Medal of Honor Museum. He says, why should a company part with an asset because some people deem it for a good cause? If I didn't know better, I would think you were talking about RTD using eminent domain. And Zach writes in to say, has Kyle even heard a truck in reverse? His backup noise could use some work. I got a 19-month-old, so if I can't make a truck noise, I'm failing on a couple of levels. See you next time.